Section in the book about classical problems and myths, and let me highlight two of them I think that are important ones. One that you mentioned, which is that there's not enough capital here, and especially the myth that there's not enough venture capital here. It turns out that there's never enough capital. It turns out that it's always hard to raise money. Even when it looks easy, it's still not easy. And it might be easy at one moment in time for one entrepreneur, but it's never fundamentally easy. And so the idea that that's a constraint for you as an entrepreneur is an artificial constraint that you're creating. And it's actually not something that you can do that much about directly. In other words, if you're an entrepreneur, whining about there not being enough capital doesn't get you more capital. And, oh, by the way, there's not much that you can structurally do in the short term to get more capital, other than create compelling companies that then attracts capital. So there's a lot of different things that happen over the evolution of a startup community in terms of capital. And one of the dynamics is, if you have, over a long period of time, an engaged startup community, you tend to get a lot more early stage capital into the community, because much of that early stage capital doesn't come from venture capitalists, it comes from other entrepreneurs. And so it comes from other entrepreneurs who have made some money and turn around and reinvest it back into other local startups, because that's fun, it's interesting, and it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs like to do. You also get to the place, if you think about capital today, you've got a bunch of seed funds in LA, and a lot of early stage investors in LA. In 2007, there were no seed investors. I mean, like, the whole idea of a seed investor existing was like a unicorn. And you had some angel investors, but you really didn't have very many seed investors. Today, there's a whole category. You know, there's too much seed investing, and now everybody's saying there's too many things being invested. It's just never in balance. So just don't give a shit about it. It's not something you can control. That's one myth. One of the classic problems that exists, and I'll describe it with a story, is something I talk about in the book called the patriarch problem. The patriarch problem, when I'm really grumpy, I call it the old white guy problem. And here's how it works. I went to Colorado Springs, which is about 2 hours south of Boulder, at the invitation of a couple of people that were entrepreneurs to come spend some time in their community and talk at the big angel group event and meet some entrepreneurs and talk at the university. And I said, sure, yeah, I don't want to come down just for the angel group event, so why don't you set up like 2 days worth of stuff, like a dinner and whatever, and I'll stay overnight and da-da-da-da-da. And I just left it in their hands. So here's what the arc looked like. The first night, I drove down, I show up, I'm at the nice hotel, beautiful evening, and a friend of mine that I know picks me up and drives me to one of the nicest houses in Colorado Springs, overlooking the whole town. And we have this beautiful dinner at this guy's house, beautiful house. And, you know, I'm having dinner, and basically it's with about 20 people. Somebody senior in government, I can't remember what their role is, the chancellor of the university, the president of the university, the local school, somebody from the mayor's office that's like the chief of staff, and then like 15 old white guys. All right, that's whatever. And there were, 2 or 3 entrepreneurs, and the rest were, the old white guy. And we have a nice dinner. We talk about, entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial community in Colorado Springs, and I hear about how there aren't enough good entrepreneurs, and the venture capitalists aren't here, and these guys want to invest money in things, but they have to go somewhere else to invest money because there's just not enough talent here in Colorado Springs, and da-da-da-da-da, and what should we do to solve for that? Next day, I do a bunch of meetings. I talk at the angel meeting, 300 people show up, how many people here have made an investment in the last 12 months, like 4 hands go up. What the fuck are you doing here? This is angel group meeting, like 4 people made angel investments. Like, really? And, I challenge them to, like, go do some stuff. Like, stop with we're something we're not. I do some stuff at the university. I had some lunch with some entrepreneurs, do some more stuff. And at the end of the day, I show up in Old Town, Colorado Springs, in an art museum, an art gallery with about 30 people. And they've got some local microbrews, and it's like the opposite of the dinner the night before. It's 20, 30 people, ethnicity pretty varied, about 50-50 male-female, all entrepreneurs, all except for one person, an entrepreneur, one person, again, from the mayor's office, different person, younger person, and all between, early 20s and late 30s. And we had this incredible conversation. The stuff that they were doing was just awesome. And, a couple of one-person company, two-person company, a couple of people with one person with a 30-person company, one person with a 20-person company, but funded and growing very quickly. And we were talking, and I described my dinner the night before, and you could just see everybody, like the energy go out of the room. And somebody said, they knew about the people the night before. How do we get those people to pay attention to us? And I said, you don't. Just ignore them. Just ignore them. A couple of things are going to happen. Number one, some of them are really cool and really awesome. And if you're doing cool stuff, they will notice you're doing cool stuff, and they will show up. Because they want to do cool stuff with interesting people. So they'll notice something's going on, and they'll just come to you. And then a couple of their friends will come hang out with them, because that's where they're hanging out with, and they'll end up hanging out with you. And some of the rest of them won't do anything. But you know what? Those people are going to die anyway. What's the matter? You're not living. So don't worry about the patriarchs. They don't control what's going on here. And instead, just do what the internet does. Just route around them. And go create your own future. And they really got it. And it was very interesting to see, and this was 2 years ago or something like that, the energy level in Fort Collins. I gave a talk, or in Colorado Springs, I gave a talk via Skype a week or two ago. Unbelievable energy in a room full of people that 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier, you couldn't have found the people. And it was a mix of leaders and feeders. Some of the people in the room were the old white guys that had come down. I keep saying it that way just because I like to. A couple of patriarchs. Now I realize the irony of it becoming an old white guy, so I have to say it just to keep myself honest. But the patriarchs coming down off the top of the hill, a couple of them were in the room, a couple of the entrepreneurs in the room, a couple of people moved to town. Oh yeah, it's awesome what's going on here. Like you just see the energy level shift because you're not asking for permission. You're not waiting for somebody else to tell you it's okay.